Welcome to the Investor Talk Show, where serious real estate practitioners get signal, not spin. And I'm your host, Neil Peterson. And if you're buying, selling, or brokering a property deal starting this quarter, this session could save you lots of time and money. And joining me is Michael Lenz. He's the founder and CEO of TransBridj. They're a fintech platform redefining property transaction funding with automation, attorney-first workflows, and sub-24-hour approvals. TransBridj was named runner-up for the most innovative PropTech at the 2025 API Awards, just after 6 months in the market. Michael, great to have you on the show.
Hi, Neil. How are you?
No, really good. Thank you. Awesome. So, Michael, let's jump into it. Let's talk about, digital bridging and, how we can fix that pre-transfer gap. Can you maybe just start off by explaining what digital bridging is and, in short, what problem you're actually solving?
Fantastic. Thanks, Neil. So bridging is nothing new to sort of the marketplace as such, but the way that it's been done, it's sort of stooped in quite a sort of lengthy, paper-heavy process. And what we mean by bridging is there's certain requirements before a transaction can even get into the deeds office for lodgement. And sometimes your sellers are even caught unaware of these costs. They can be things like rates and taxes that need to be paid up in advance, levies if you're in a development, and even COCs. And as mentioned, these costs need to be paid up front before a lodgement process can commence. And then obviously we've also got our realtors in a process where once a transaction has gotten to a stage where it's all conditions have been met and it's unconditional, funds are available, but realtors sometimes can't get hold of those funds. So that's really, Neil, where we come in as TransBridj. And what we've done differently is we've digitized this entire process through a fintech and finprop platform that we've developed, and also spreading over apps just in terms of accelerating deal flow and making sure that deals get concluded faster.
Excellent. So, why do deals stall between the offer and registration? And where does TransBridj plug into that?
So as mentioned, there are requirements to get a deal into the deeds office, and what often happens is that these costs aren't sort of costed for and planned by mostly the sellers. As an example, the seller might just get a call from the conveyancing attorney that then says to them there are these costs to be paid at this stage. Probably your bond cancellation figures are in. You don't have access to these funds. If we're looking at transactions, it can be anything to up to 6 months in advance on your rates and taxes, your levies, and some of the other costs as well. And then what happens is it causes a bottleneck in terms of being able to get your rates clearance certificates from council before you can go into the deeds office. This can sometimes take days. And it causes a real delay, and that's to everybody in the ecosystem. If you think about your realtor that's waiting for registration and transfer to get their commission out, the attorney on the matter as well in terms of being able to sort of extract their fees, the seller and the purchaser getting into their property, may it be residential or commercial, and then obviously the seller as well, wanting to get their monies out.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the deeds office, let's call it paralysis in Johannesburg, which has led to cash flow pain for a lot of people. So, and in Johannesburg, the backlog is, thousands of deals in limbo. Can you maybe quantify the impact on sellers, agents, and attorneys, and explain how TransBridj can actually unlock funds without adding any more legal risk?
Absolutely, Neil. Yeah, when that sort of came out, I thought it's going to put it back by a couple of weeks. It looks like it's months. There's some predicting that it could be as much as 6 months.
Wow.
So put yourself in the shoes of a realtor that's got a deal. It's concluded, so all suspensive conditions are met. The funds are for a lack of a better word, sitting there, either in escrow, in cash, or in a bond grant. And this realtor at a point where a normal deeds office transaction should take you 21 days could now take you 6 months. And that means that realtor doesn't have access to those funds. And as you can imagine, they would need to be working on their next deals. And those often mean marketing costs that need to be paid, agency costs of desk, all of those kind of things. So it has a real impact on realtors and estate agents, as well as for your attorneys and the sellers. And that's really where TransBridj comes in and says, right, once that deal is at a stage where we are happy to fund a deal. And as mentioned, it's a fact that the monies are basically available. It's just now a process that needs to be had and fulfilled, that being your transfer and registration process, as in this example, the deeds office, and this has been delayed. So what TransBridj will do is up to a percentage on the commission for realtors, anything up to 80%, we would then fund those commissions to the realtors and unlock cash flow, and then as well for your sellers to unlock the upfront costs that we mentioned before. And that's really the space that we play in.
Excellent. So let's talk about sub 24-hour approvals. I mean, what makes that kind of speed possible in 24 hours? Walk us through maybe the underwriting, the data sources, controls, know your client, anti money laundering, etc., and fraud.
So as mentioned, what we've done at TransBridj, we've developed a platform that actually has a user journey for all of your parties in the transactions, for all four of them. Your attorney, your seller, your purchaser, and your realtor in the transaction. And each of them are bespoke to what needs to happen to get this transaction done. The attorney sits in the center as the nucleus. And what we do is we pre the transaction getting to a stage where it's funded, we actually get the parties to onboard. And it's at that stage that we then do your AI vetting and scraping of documents. For your attorneys, it would be things like your Fidelity Fund certificate, letter of good standing, insurance policy, proof of bank account, all of those kind of things. For your realtor as well, there are certain documents that are required from the PPRA, also just to vet that. And then so what we do is at that stage already, Neil, we will vet those transactions so that we know it's ready to go once rates clearance figures are attained, and we can push that through. So what that does as well is it then lends itself to that 24-hour sub 24-hour cycle in terms of payout. And then what we've done in the background, we've partnered with a service provider, a banking service provider, that then gives us access to an end-to-end wallet solution, encrypted, secured. We as TransBridj actually don't touch any of the monies in the transaction flow. So they'll be released into a wallet as a starting point, released out of a wallet directly into the attorney's nominated trust account. That again we would have pre-vetted prior to the transaction actually happening.
Okay, so let's talk about digital mandates, attorney first by design. So how do digital mandates, if we talk about payout rules and the audit trail, work in practice?
So every transaction, and we work it transaction by transaction. So your attorney could have been had deals come through TransBridj prior. It could be their first deal, and as mentioned, they would be onboarded before commissioning this transaction. But then each transaction through all of the processes has a unique ID that flows through from reference numbers that can be tracked back to the attorney's matter and deal file that they would have open, in terms of the actual funding process through our funding partner, on the sort of guardrail and sort of back end wallet process. Each transaction then is also identifiable and trackable, and that just gives the entire sort of workflow transparency in terms of the process. So we look at it transaction by transaction, and we can monitor that through our digital platform. It's got an embedded tracker inside of it that goes all the way from the first sort of onboarding of the attorney, and then the deal flow as well. And we then have a timeline that can trace the transaction and where it actually sits in the ecosystem, coming back to a repayment point. And there as well, Neil, what we do on the repayment side, that's also through the platform and app, where the attorney then on registration and transfer automatically selects repayment. It will then lead them to their banking account, which is again the nominated trust account in the matter of the attorneys, and it's filtered back through that again via sort of the controls and guardrails.
Yeah, great. So let's make it real. Let's talk about a case study. The seller needs rates, levies paid, and agent wants to get their 80% commission in advance, and an attorney needs, of course, less admin. So maybe just give us before, after, time to cash, fall through reduction, and satisfaction, net promoter scores.
Absolutely. So Neil, so really what we're doing is and one's got to sort of remember who's in the sort of life cycle of a transaction like this. A seller, this won't be a day-to-day activity for a seller, so it can be incredibly daunting. These costs coming up, decreasing cash flow, especially on commercial transactions where you can imagine. And I'll give you a real life example. We had a transaction where we did a bridge for just over 850,000 rand. That would have been cash flow out of a business, which we've been able to fund and bridge and keep that money in a business, which for our client was very, very worthwhile. And also not to go through the admin. So let's go back to the seller, not understanding what needs to happen. Attorneys often have to then take over this responsibility, where it's then paper admin heavy. So those are sort of the clawbacks from a time point of view that we're able to get. And then obviously through the digitization of the entire process, it's your transparency, it's the security behind what we've created. And then also just having a look at, as you say, the sort of net promoter score at the end of the day. I must say and be honest in terms of the conveyancing and attorney sort of field, still very paper heavy. So the adoption onboarding from the first transaction has needed a bit of guidance and sort of education in terms of the process. But it's absolutely amazing that once that sort of click through process is understood, we've now had multiple transactions coming through attorneys, and they're absolutely loving it.
Okay, excellent. Great. So let's talk a bit about pricing, risk, and downside. I mean, how do you price bridging versus risk? I mean, if, for example, a transaction collapses post-advance, who carries the loss, and how do you actually cap exposure per deal or per firm?
Yeah, good question, Neil. So what we do is we as such very prescriptive in terms of when we bridge a deal. Again, we will have a look at, and there's actually a checklist of items that we require from a platform authentication and sort of a green light, for a lack of a better word, before we will get into bridging. So what that does is it gets us to a stage where we then understand that the deal is unconditional. What at that stage, the attorney is then also happy to give their undertaking. So what we do is we get a letter of undertaking from the attorney that then sort of guards us and secures us. Look, nothing is without risk. To the biggest extent, it would be in insolvency, liquidation, or death within the transaction. We do have cover for that, and we would then take those matters out of the sort of normal automated system, and then sort of engage in terms of the process. We've also set some limits in terms of time of deal tenure out there. So those are sort of some of our risk mitigants. And yeah, in terms of pricing it, what we do is we actually do it on a scaled basis. We are comfortable through the platform to fund deals up to 5 million rand. So that and we've got our sort of guardrails in place there. But as I said, nothing is without risk, but it's manageable and it's mitigated through sort of cover from our side as well.
Correct. So let's talk about what's genuinely different about TransBridj versus traditional bridging companies. And I talk about PDF. I mean, it's all the paper guys, isn't it? And email shops, lender add-ons. And of course, I mentioned up front, you guys won an award. So I think that carries something as well. So, but maybe just tell us what separates you from the rest from the others.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, I must say for a company that's as young as us, it was quite amazing to sit there and see our name as the top three, and then sort of coming in as runners up. So very, very proud of that and the team. I think really what sets us apart and what's the real difference is that we are not just trying to solve a problem. We're really looking at taking this into the future. And again, having had interactions at the API Summit, it's ready. The technology is there, the will is there, and it's a matter of adoption and moving forward. And it's amazing to see once we have that adoption from our clients, how quickly it becomes the one-stop shop to do that. And I think for us, bridging is just the start of it. We really set out to get in front of transactions. There unfortunately some sort of regulatory issues that get us there. But ideally, we would want to set up a platform that takes you end to end, from an electronic OTP being received, dispatched the same day, getting ready for your bridging at the right time, and even moving into circles like your EDRS that's happening out in the market where you've got electronic deeds. It is simply the way to go, and we don't believe it's an option. It's what we've got to do in this age that we live in, which is sort of AI tech and prop tech based, and just move transactions forward and shave possibly weeks off transactions in terms of that whole ecosystem. So I believe that's what sets us apart, is that we're a forward looking company, and not here to sort of sit in and accept what's out there at the moment.
Great stuff. So let's talk about scale, regulation, and also the next 12 months, the future. What's the rollout plan? National, then Africa, and maybe the integrations you still need and your regulatory posture.
Yeah. So when we had a look at our sort of year one trajectory, really we didn't think that we'd sort of be able to scale nationally as quick as we have. That was sort of a 2026 outlook. Very proud to say that we are nationally represented from our transaction flow. So that's been absolutely amazing to have gotten that sort of onboarding prize through our clients. And then so the plan really is a full sort of national rollout that we've got set in the next sort of 12 months. And then really what we want to do is, and again, very exciting, and it lends itself to the development of the platform. We're proud to say that it's been developed on the African continent. We have an amazing team that sits in Kenya that are developers. And what we've done is we've already sort of future-proofed for some of the nuances coming out of an African market that might be different to an SA or SADC sort of sort of playbook as such. So we've done those kind of integrations, and yes, it's a rollout. It's a planned rollout over the continent, and very proud to say that we honestly believe that we've got something that that benefits and takes away bottlenecks and heartache for everyone in the process.
Michael, thanks for the straight talk. How does anybody reach out to you?
You can catch us on all the sort of social media platforms, including LinkedIn. Then we are on the web as well as www.transbridj with a J at the end.com. And we're on both the Google Play Store and the Apple app. Just download if you're a realtor or an attorney. Please download the app, connect with us, and register, sign on, and let's get that first deal done.
So we'll drop a link in the end. And so, yeah, bottom line, South Africa's housing rebound is throttled by timing, not just affordability. We've seen for buyers and sellers, and digital bridging unlocks funds already in motion. It keeps attorneys compliant and pays agents sooner so deals don't die. And if this helped you, you subscribe to Investor Talk, share it with any practitioner who needs this, and grab the notes and probably watch it again. And then click on the link below. Michael, great chatting to you. And Michael Lenz, he's he's founder and CEO of TransBridj. And I'm Neil Peterson, and I'll see you next time.